Hello, welcome again to the Object Relations Thinking video series. I'm going to talk today about fear of success. Although we often think of fear of failure, which we're more conscious of. Often even our fears of failure are really connected on a deeper level with unconscious fears of success. So I'm going to break down a few elements that go into why we might actually inhibit our success throughout our life, even though we think what we're really afraid of is failing. There are two different levels of development that relate to the origins of conflicts that often take place more in our unconscious minds about fearing that if we succeed there are going to be punitive or dire consequences, and so we could actually sabotage ourselves as a way of protecting ourselves from the feared aggression of parents or siblings that we fear might attack us for our successes. And that's on one particular level where we fear that we're going to get attacked because of envious or jealous reactions from others for the things that we achieve. For example, if we do better in life than our siblings or our parents, which often is the case. Parents may very much want their children to go beyond them on a conscious level, but may have conflicting fears of that when they see their kids go further than they themselves go. It can stir up all kinds of feelings of envy and resentment that could come out as putting the kid down in very disguised sometimes, and sometimes more overt, hostile, sarcastic comments, or other things that on an unconscious level the kid can experience as actual murderous intentions towards them. So children carry with them a fear that the opposite sex parent who they might be, the same sex parent actually, they might be competing with, like a son with a father, a daughter with a mother. Going beyond that parent can often create repercussions that make them fear that they're going to be either injured in some psychological or actually literal way, or even murderously attacked if they get a degree in school their parents didn't get, or if they go into a profession that's to be envied by parents who didn't go that far with their ambitions in the world, or may have just been working in a very menial way compared to professional and education successes of their kids. So we have the fear of the parents' resentment that they go further than them. And on an earlier level, we also have a fear that just separating from the mother can create a murderous attack of abandoning the child if the child dares to separate and go their own way. So I'll give you a few examples of one particular woman who had she actually came up with the phrase, "My graduation is my mother's funeral," because she felt that whenever she succeeded, her mother was going to die or be killed by her success. In fact, when she left her native land to come to America, her father actually called her up and told her she was killing her mother and giving her mother a heart attack by going away from home. And yet she was going away in order to feel that she could be entitled to do the things she wanted in life. So for her, graduation of any kind at any stage of her life was filled with the fear that she was going to give her mother a heart attack. So this came out in the phrase, my graduation is my mother's funeral. And then she experienced that in an interesting way in relation to me as her therapist in psychotherapy. Because I am a psychoanalyst, we work with deeply unconscious things, and it's a psychoanalytic form of therapy and actually psychoanalysis in this case. So the woman I'm speaking about saw me as both an extension of herself that she could identify with and watch me go out in the world for her, since it wasn't safe for her to do that. And she would want to stand in the background, watching me, applauding me, being vicariously a part of my success every step of the way. But this was in the beginning of treatment. She did not want to be out there because she saw me as taking all the risks and getting all the attacks, and she added to whatever she actually saw, people being competitive or envious of me. She added that to her own unconscious fantasies that became conscious in the treatment, that I was being so attacked and I was defending myself, but she didn't think she'd be able to do that because in her mind the attackers would be the mother who would be getting a heart attack, or the father who was attacking her for giving her mother a heart attack, or siblings of hers that she had that resented her in the same way. That her mother might, for leaving the family, leaving home. So for her, there was both the fear of attack from envious others that her mother might represent, her father's siblings, but there was also this earlier fear that she would be seen as the abandoning one, murdering the mother by separating and going her own way and leaving her mother behind. And this particularly became vivid when she left her country. And yet she saved herself from all kinds of psychological suffering by being able to come to America and go into psychotherapy so she could find her own self, her own feelings, separate from who the mother kept telling her she should be or was. But this would have been a dangerous thing to do at home. In fact, she had bulimic symptoms related to this at home, and when she came to America, that particular symptom changed into others, but she was able to eat in a regular way and was able to start to digest psychologically what her feelings were, along with me as her psychoanalyst. So she gave up. She gradually came to see she could survive as she went forward in the world. And as she did that, she realized that she was no longer just wanting to stay in the background with me out there in the world in her fantasy. I mean, she knew I gave presentations, that I was known in my field. And so she added to that her own fantasies of watching me be out there on front stage center, succeeding, being applauded, getting awards. And I did write books, she knew that, I did get awards. She imagined all this as what she wanted to be, but it was safer to do it vicariously through me. But as she started to feel her own feelings and realized that her parents had wanted to hold her back because of their insecurities about themselves and her mother's fear of abandonment emotionally, she was able to start to separate from them and own her healthy ambition and grieve at the loss and the guilt that she felt related to having to leave her family in order to make her own identity in the world and her own family here in the United States. So as she became more who she was, she didn't want to stand anymore in the background, just vicariously living through me, being in the shadows, watching me handle the envious others or take the admiration that was there. She wanted to be out there herself. So gradually she started to accept that she didn't just plug into me and experience my talents, but realize she had these talents in herself and she could go out there front stage center. And in fact, she did that at one of her graduations. And interestingly, her mother came and they both survived the event. Her mother was actually proud of her and actually was happy that she'd gone through analysis and was out there shining and winning the audience over with her humor and her insightfulness and her graciousness as she accepted her certificate that day at the graduation in her field. So she realized her mother actually survived, although the mother had unconscious fear she'd be killed by her daughter's success, and she had fears of that. She got to realize herself, and then she didn't want any more to, as I said, to be in the shadows with me. She wanted to do it herself. She wanted to be the one articulating her thoughts and feelings out in the world, her ideas, her intellect, her profession, and having people as students of her own or people who looked up to her when she had her achievements. Now, in the case of a former male client of mine, he had more what we call the Oedipal level dynamics that were the traditional ones related to Freud's original theories. They didn't go back to this earlier time with the mother about just basic separation and finding one's identity separate from the mother in the world, but actually we're at a higher level, what we call 3 to 5 years of life, where the kid already feels separate and has a relationship with both mother and father. But then there are other dangers. The danger of the same-sex parent, in Freud's terms, castrating or punishing his son for advances in the world because of the father's envy. For the kid having a relationship with the mother, the father's feeling jealous, or siblings feeling jealous of that. In this family, there was actually a lot of jealousy and a lot of envy. The father and his brothers particularly envying his relationship with his mother. So then later, when he went out of the family, which was an immigrant family in this country, and started to get high-level graduate degrees in his field, it was resented, that particularly by his brothers and his father, so that when he got his highest degree, his father couldn't congratulate him. His father actually, he found out later, cried with a sister of his, and there the father was feeling his pride in the son as well as his lack of belief that the son could go so far. But to his son in person, he put his son down and said, "Oh, what's this for? So now what are you going to do?" And the brother too, he said, "So what do you do with this thing, this graduate degree?" So he was getting contempt, teasing, and all this. This was Freud's Oedipal idea, but on an unconscious level, it's not felt as just teasing or mild attack. It's experienced, or withholding of congratulations, but rather is experienced as, they really want to kill me. They really don't want me to live anymore. They're so envious, so jealous of what I have that they don't have. They just want me to be dead. So that's the unconscious fear that could be behind the fear of success. You really fear that you're going to be annihilated or murdered. And with the earlier fear of abandonment, there's a fear that you're going to lose the mother at a time when you're not ready to be at all operating on your own without a mother's care and continuing contact. So there's a sense of fear of devastating emptiness, of being alone in the world without anyone if you succeed and go away from the mother, when you still need her and you think you're going to be cut off from her if you go forward in life because of her fears of abandonment. So there are these two different levels, and often these two different levels also interact within people. And so it's not even as simple as just fear of abandonment or fear of being murdered by a jealous competitor like the same-sex pair in the Oedipal stage. But that's all we have time for today.